Over the last year and a half, the landscape of recycling has changed dramatically since China put in bans and restrictions on the amount and the quality of materials that they would accept. For many years, the world had been shipping its recycling products to China, and the quality standards weren't very strict. Since those bans and restrictions have come into play, the importance of having a clean recycling stream and a clean product going to end markets has increased. So the amount of contamination that's actually allowed in the bales that are sold to market is very, very small. So we have to be more vigilant today than we ever have in the past on making sure that our recycling is clean before we put it into the recycling bin. This is not recyclable. As you can hear, it makes a lot of crunching noises when I scrunch it together. The City of Toronto does accept film plastic in its recycling bin, but it only accepts the soft, stretchy film plastics. If you have any of these crunchy plastic bags, they belong in the garbage. This is another item that is confusing for people. Again, most people think this is plastic and all plastic goes into the recycling bin. But this is a mix of materials. It's metallized as well, so it's a combination of plastics and metals. Most products, in order to be recycled, need to be single product in order to be recycled into something else. And in order for a product to be accepted in the City of Toronto's Blue Bin recycling program, we need to have a market at the other end that's first willing to buy that product. There isn't really a wide market for flexible packaging. Most municipalities would not accept them in their recycling programs. So hazardous wastes is something that should never go into the Blue Bin program. It can cause health and safety hazards for the workers at the recycling facility. At this time of year, we see a lot of those camp stoves with the canisters, and they can be explosion hazards. So please bring those back to our household hazardous waste depots. If you don't live in the City of Toronto, most municipalities would have hazardous waste programs that you can look up in order to safely dispose of this type of material. So that would include things like batteries and canisters with gasoline in them, paints, and anything with those toxic symbols on the side of them. Those should all be brought back to a household hazardous waste depot. All right, this is a tricky one. There's multiple pieces all formed together here. So in the City of Toronto, we would want you to separate all of these pieces, take the stir stick and put that in the garbage, take the lid and put that into the Blue Bin. The coffee cup itself should go into the garbage, and the paper sleeve can go into the Blue Bin. This is another problematic item that we find in our Blue Bin, and the City of Toronto does not solicit pods in the Blue Bin program. The major reason for that is there's no standardization of these products across all the producers. Some are recyclable, some are compostable, so there's a lot of confusion. And the majority of these, when they do get put into the Blue Bin, they still have coffee grinds in them. We don't want dirty materials in our Blue Bin program. So if you have a container that's got a little bit of juice left in it, please dump the juice out, and then you can put that in your Blue Bin. Likewise, if you could just rinse this out. You don't need to break out the soap and water. A quick rinse or a wipe, but again, like a small amount is fine, but make sure there's no chunks of food left in there. Okay, this is another hot topic, is the black plastics. Within the City of Toronto, we do not accept black plastics in our recycling program. We don't have an end market for black plastics. As well, these materials cannot be sorted because we use optical sortation devices to separate all of our plastic materials, and the optical sorters do not recognize the black plastic. However, if you have this at home, you can recycle the lid and you can put the black plastic in the garbage, or what I do is I reuse these. And actually, if I go to a restaurant and I know I'm going to likely have some leftovers to take home, I will take this with me. I'll put it in my bag and I'll bring my leftovers home in this. They work great. Clothing, this is something that we actually get a lot of clothing in our Blue Bin. Sadly, we do not accept clothing in the Blue Bin program. However, if you check the City of Toronto's website, we have listed charities where you can bring back good clothing to, so that it can be reused. One of the issues with clothing in the Blue Bin program is it gets wrapped around equipment, and it can cause downtime at the recycling facilities.
Is it kind of a safe rule of thumb that if Toronto doesn't take it, no one does?
I'd say that's a pretty safe rule, that if Toronto doesn't take it, others probably don't. 3 things that residents can do when they're looking at managing their materials is being more conscious of the items that they're actually bringing into their homes to ensure that they're bringing items in that they can either reuse or recycle. Focus on the products that you're buying to ensure that you're not buying more than what you need. Secondly, is to ensure that you're reusing the products. For example, if you have containers that you can reuse, it's always better to reuse than it is to recycle. And thirdly, for those products that you no longer use, ensure that you're disposing of them at your curb in the way that your municipality wants you to dispose of them. Please do focus on contamination when it comes to your recycling bin. This jar may look like an innocent jar of pasta sauce, but if this gets into the recycling bin and it breaks open, it can contaminate a lot of material. If you imagine pasta sauce all over an entire bale of paper, and it can have a significant damage to the recycling programs, and it costs municipalities millions of dollars. Those products can no longer be recycled, and they will end up in landfill. And landfill space is a precious commodity as well, so we want to make sure that we can extend the life of our landfill. So please do ensure that you rinse your products before you put them into the recycling bin.